At this time, we'll call this meeting of the Warren County School Board to order. We want to welcome everyone who is joining us here and those who are watching online. And if you'd like to follow along, tonight's agenda can be found at our website, warrenschools.com, under the board tab, and then under meetings, tonight's agenda will be there. Can I get a motion to accept tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion by Ms. Bass, second by Mr. Judkins. Got any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'll ask Ms. Hennessy Cope to lead us in our pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. Can I get a motion for approval of tonight's consent agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Mr. Colwell,
Second.
second by Mr. Zeckman. Any discussion on the consent agenda? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, we do not have any public comment, nor do we have a student advisory report, or do we have recognitions for this month. So we will move over to facilities and resources, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Swallows.
All right, thank you, David. You want to update the board?
Sure. This month's board update, I'll start with the COVID center out here. We now have power in there. AC is up and running. It's nice and cool in there. For the guys that's working. Ceiling grid's all up. There's still a little bit of changes in the sprinkler. They gotta move some heads and everything. When we put those bulkheads up there for those two divider walls, that made everything shift just a little bit, and we gotta change some sprinkler locations. There were some extra outlets that was installed. Actually, the rough end boxes was put in today. The carpet is scheduled to go in the latter part of this week, and I was told this afternoon that depends on, you know, if all the other contractors get out of the way and this, but it, as of right now, it's scheduled for the latter part of this week. And I don't know if you noticed it or not, but the little parking lot out there is now paved. We've got that. It's a little bit smaller than what we anticipated, but
How many parking spaces?
there's 12 out there, 12 parking spaces.
With the, in addition to what's already along
Yeah,
that row.
yeah,
So I think there's roughly, we counted 20, roughly 35 parking spots on that side of the
Something
building.
like that, yeah. Moving to Centertown, the addition, they were having some air flow problems. The building was pressurizing and it was holding the doors open, and we had to do some air balance on the units to pull that pressure in so that the doors would close. Everything is adjusted and it's working good right now. They may have to come back and do some more. The last month I told you about a new addition for the annex over at the high school, the old psych building. It's coming along good. We've done the rough end wiring. We've still got to do the low voltage wiring, and when I say low voltage, that's internet, fire alarm and things like that. All of the low voltage stuff still has to be done. I talked to the guy today that's putting the roof on, and he said he's having problems getting the metal to put the roof on, but maybe we've got that worked out today, so all that should be coming along. That's all I have.
I'll just add to what David talked about with Centertown. We are having a ribbon cutting ceremony. That's
Yes.
Tuesday, July the 30th.
Right.
And that will be at 3:30 p.m. We'd love for you all to be there if you can. Sure, certainly open to the public. We'll do a short ceremony and then just allow public to go in and see those new classrooms. So that's in conjunction with their open house that night. So there'll be a lot of things going on that campus that night. And then one additional thing about the building out here. David, help me, have they worked out a date to where they're gonna move in the clinic prior to where we start, or are you aware of that?
That has been talked about, but I never have heard a date.
Right. We don't have a temporary CO yet, so there's nobody that
Right.
can go into
Right.
that. But we are gonna try to get the employee health clinic moved there as quickly as we can, but we are still not there yet. Any questions for David?
We're good. All right, moving on to operations report.
All right, so wanted to give you an update. Bobby is here, Bobby Cox is here to give you an update on the strategic plan. You have a copy of the draft. Obviously, nothing is set in stone yet until you all have a chance to look through this. And I'm gonna let him talk a little bit about where we are, and then allow you to ask questions, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate being here tonight. I think the draft that you have at the present just kind of outlines the work that we've been working on for really over a year now with the team. So just taking you back to the beginning of the process in August, we set out on revising that strategic plan. We started out with a mission vision setting. So the team worked, our leadership team worked to look at the mission, vision, beliefs of the district, and then to start looking at priority areas. So anytime you're looking at strategic planning, as we said, it's laying the groundwork for the next 5 years. What are the things that you want to accomplish? What are the things that you want to move the district forward with? So there was a lot of background work that was done. We looked at your TISA plan, we looked at your informed TN plan, looked at your data, things of that type to get the base, I guess, if you will, of where we needed to go and what were the priority areas. So once we got the priority areas, we did a SWOT analysis of several things within each one of those priority areas, and tried to narrow down the focus, because you can't accomplish everything over the next 5 years. And that's one of the things that in strategic planning, that it's not only about what are we going to try to accomplish, it's what are we going to try to take off the plate so that we can accomplish what we're going to do. So the team, we had really good discussions. The team worked really well together. We had several meetings over the SWOT analysis to take a look at that, and then narrow down those focus areas into the goals and action steps that you see. So on the screen, these are the templates, these are the internal documents that you'll have. What you have at your desk is really the executive summary. So it's pulled, the goals, the action steps, which are on the right-hand side, and then what's yet to be filled in is the implementation plan. So that is where the team will come back together, provided that this is approved by the board after you've had a chance to look at it and determine the timeline, who's going to be responsible for those things, what are the resources, how are you going to evaluate it, and then what are the performance outcomes that you're looking to get. So each one of the goals there's 4 goals and multiple action steps. So each one of those things is very flexible, can be changed. It's aligned with TISA, it's aligned with your informed TN plan, so that you have one plan that you work on to try to improve in the areas that you want to improve on. So it's kind of, in education, education 101 is you've got to get your ground level things done first. How are we going to work with kids with extreme needs, social emotional needs, things of that type. So the bottom, if you go down one more, Grant, the social emotional goal is there. You have an academic goal. You have a way to market the district, which I think you're already starting to market. I marketed for you on Facebook the other day when you were at in Gatlinburg. And then, back up to that first goal, which was, I think, the
Teacher.
teacher and leader goal.
Recruitment.
Yeah, teacher and leader recruitment. So those are the 4 goals. We have multiple action steps there. And it's like this, you're going to have some things that as you go over the next 5 years that those actions may take all 5 years to accomplish. Some of them may be accomplished in a year. So these are flexible enough that you can change as you need to change, but it also gives you a guideline to move forward with. And I like to use an analogy. My friend Clint Satterfield, I always look at Dr. Satterfield, Coach Satterfield. He's been pretty successful at Trousdale County and at exemplary, school districts, and he looks at it from a kind of a coaching perspective, but we were talking one day, and he said, you got to meet the needs of you got to lay the groundwork, meet the needs of all your kids first. That's your foundation. It's just like coaching a football team. You got to lay the foundation to have a good football team. Then you've got to strive, for excellence, and not to be perfect, but you want to strive to be perfect. And then you've got to be able, third, to adjust when things don't go as they need to go. So it was kind of funny. I know you've got a lot on the agenda, but one of the examples he used, I love his examples, and he was playing for a state championship one year, and I think they were undefeated. And, he went to a press day, and he said the other coach was talking about his football team and saying, well, they're pretty standard. They run about 6 plays, and we feel comfortable that we can defend those 6 plays, and we think we've got a good shape. And then they turned the mic over to him. He said, well, you're right. We do strive to be pretty simple, and every play that we design is designed to score a touchdown. If we do it the right way, then we're going to get to the end zone. And he said, but I can also tell you this. He said, until you stop plays 1, 2, and 3, you won't see 4, 5, and 6. So so he it kind of broke it down. If you look at that, and I think he puts that into education as well. So this is one tool that you have. If you want to go over that Excel sheet.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. So this is an Excel spreadsheet. It's really a monitoring and implementation plan tool. So if you go all the way over to the end, go to that arrow on the right. Yeah, there you go. Updated guidance. That's probably where we need to start. So on this tool, this is really internal. It can be used external. It can be used by the district, however. But there's a grading system. It's a 0 to 4 grading system there. It's color coded. So the biggest thing is when you start implementing this plan is monitoring the plan. What gets monitored gets done. So you have to see how you're doing on these goals and action steps. And what I think was decided was to do that on a quarterly basis. So this guidance shows you how to do that. It can be amended as you need to be. From red is a 1 all the way up to 4, and then if you scroll down, there's an NA at the bottom. Or if it's a 0 in gray, that you're not started on that action yet. So then if you go to the implementation plan and scroll up, the 4 goal areas are there. So on this spreadsheet, you can input the activities that are happening under each one, what the status is of each one, who owns that, what's the start date, what's the end date of each one of those things, and that can be expanded as you go through the document. And if you go over, I guess, to go to quarter 1, probably be the best way to go. So if you go to quarter 1, on the left-hand side are the focus areas. The goal is numbered series 1 through 4, and then each action step is coded as there, and then the actual action step is loaded there for you. So if you scroll over to the bottom, all the way over to the right, go ahead and go up to the first one. So just click on that first NA. There should be a pull down box, so you can put 3 in there or whatever you want to put. So it's designed, it's got a pivot table, so you can code each one of those from 0 to 4, and then when you go over to the master view down at the bottom, and then it's going to pull that over into that pivot table. So you can see at a glance, or Dr. Swallows can see at a glance, or his team can see at a glance, how things are going with the plan in quarters 1 through 4, and how each one of those action steps are being implemented. And then to the directions tab over there at the very front. So then you can also, once you do that, then there's pull-down boxes there as well that could be used in a public forum. We can have in progress, you can have complete, you can have not started yet. So those can be amendable too for each one of the quarters, the whole dashboard and the plan. So, that can be used on your website or however you need to do that. So the plan is there. If you want to show the draft public plan. Well, there's the draft public. That's what you have in your document there. So what we've done there is pulled it into an executive summary. If you scroll down, we've pulled it into the 4 groups there, tried to use your colors, district colors, and then scrolling down some more. Who's on the team, the timeline that we followed, some pictures of your students, the mission, vision, beliefs of the district. The mission and vision changed a little bit for your consideration. I don't think the beliefs did, and how we succeed. I think pretty much those stayed the same from that. And then we'll just look at one. So we have the goal, we have the action steps, and the performance metrics that are there, and that'll be in the public document. And then that last PDF there.
Which one?
The one.
Oh, yeah, sorry. That's it.
So here's the draft public-facing document. So this is what it'll look like that you can put on your website and things of that type when it gets, totally finished and things of that type. But until we had everything from the board and had you look at it and had time to consider it, there might be some changes on there. So that's kind of the plan. That's kind of the process that was used. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about that or the process that was used. Or anything you want to see or don't want to see, or
So ultimately, go ahead, did I cut you off?
I ask, that at some point, the board will need to take a vote on officially adopting and implementing.
Correct, yeah, so that's ultimately why he's providing that to you all today, to give you all a chance to look over those areas and add, take away, whatever you feel like. These are just the 4 areas that we felt like, as he said, encompassed a lot of what we're already held accountable for. So the TISA goals that we have to set that you all have approved, our Inform TN goals, so it's trying to bring it all under one umbrella, and that's difficult to do, but we feel like some of these areas, but again, these are the 4 areas that have risen to the top. Now, this is also a revision to remember. The district has had a strategic plan, so a number of the things and the principles that are a part of the strategic plan are still the same, but they've been updated to fit 2025 through 2029. So ultimately, that's why he's provided you with that document to look over, and then you all as board would adopt this for the district ultimately at your timeline.
Well, I think a lot of us are interested, we did undertake to do this, and I think that it's essential that we got started with the implementation as soon as possible. The document is engineered to be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what Bobby's telling us.
absolutely.
Because when we, if we encounter an obstacle in the road, at that point, we'll figure out how to get around it, over it, under it, how to resolve it. So.
Heaven forbid we ever go through a pandemic like we did.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
ultimately, that's something that can alter.
That's right.
Your
The
strategic
unexpected,
plan.
in this document, I don't think any planning document can account for every possibility.
Right.
So, I would be inclined to go ahead and put this up for adoption. Will we need to do 2 readings on this, Robin?
It's not
Just one
policy.
reading would be sufficient, or waive first reading and waive second?
Yeah, because again, it's not policy, so we
Okay.
have to.
I would agree with Mr. Zeckman. I can't think of any more 4 topics or issues that we would want to work on beside, I mean, that would be more needed than these four. I couldn't think of
Those
anything else, that
areas-
these areas
Yeah, they're essential.
that we're leaving out here, if we could.
So if
take
you all
those.
feel comfortable with this
No.
and adopt this tonight, then I would take that to school leadership and allow them the opportunity to
Right.
look through that and again, make suggestions and potentially bring back to you as a board, some of their suggestions. But as Bobby said, and as Bill said, there are opportunities to change some of the wording, some of the things, but, ultimately, that would be your prerogative as a board.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that's okay, but I just like to have an opportunity to look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, I just wanna take a look at it. And then, I mean, I trust Bobby, but I still wanna look at it.
Right.
So do we table this for next month? Is that what?
I mean, there's really no call for a vote. If you want to vote today, then you're welcome to, but ultimately, it's on the agenda as just an update, so you don't have to take action, but if you all want to make a motion to take action, that's up to you.
Well, I mean, we've already contracted with NIET to get this far, so at some point, I think it, we shouldn't assume anything, I guess, but I want to assume that this will be adopted and put into practice. But, well, here again, that's an assumption, but, yeah, I agree with, Chairman Cope that the four areas identified are essential, the priority areas, and I like the idea, the concept of having measurable benchmarks. We have the metrics. So I'm comfortable with this, with going ahead and adopting it on first reading, and then if we need to make revisions, we can do that by amendment.
Is that a motion?
Would that be a motion?
I'm making a motion.
All right, we got a motion by Mr. Zeckman to accept this, 5-year strategic plan by NIT. We got a second? So that motion will fail without a second, so we will come back to that at another time. We'll give everybody a chance to look through this for the next few
Well,
weeks.
I think we all want to compliment Bobby
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
NIET for the work. It shows some serious thought and, from some people who have been around this course a few times before.
So what I would just ask is if you've got some feedback, would be happy for you to pass that back along to me individually. And then we'll get that to Bobby, and then once we get a document that you all feel comfortable with, then that's when we would bring in school leadership and talk to them about that. So, we'll continue this process, and this gives you an opportunity to look at it
So what are-
provide feedback.
When we get a final plan that everybody agrees on, what are we looking like timeline to start implementing that?
Just as soon as
Just
we,
as soon as we
just
can
as soon as
agree
we
on it.
adopt it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's,
Just as soon as you get me the changes, or Grant gets me the changes that you want in the document, I'll be glad to make that in, turn that back around, however you need it, so.
Next board meeting be sufficient.
You can, or you can do that prior to the board meeting, and we can do the changes and give you another document to consider next board meeting, just completely up to you. I think that would be preferable to me, but, it's totally up to you all.
I should give plenty of time. I wanna make it perfectly clear, I know Bobby done a good job. I just wanna take a look at it.
Oh,
It's a
sure.
lot of
Yeah.
information. so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got that, Lee, you just got the document today, I'm perfectly, fine with that, I'm good with that. I mean, I want you to look at it, it's gonna be a document you use for the next 5 years, and it's your document, so we wanna make sure it's right, and I wanna compliment, the team here. They put a lot of work into it, a lot of time into it, had a lot of discussions that were, sometimes, spirited, I guess, if you like to say that, but that's the way it needs to be. And, they're very passionate about what they're doing, and wanted to make sure this plan was right, so, and I respect that, so I appreciate them and allowing me to be a part of it.
Any other questions for Bobby or me on that? All right, Bobby, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Bobby.
it. All right, so, Mr. Chairman, if you would be willing, to allow
Thanks, Bob.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Would you be willing to allow me to push the update on personal electronic device procedures down to where we have a consideration of the policy changes and put that together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to requests for the pay raise for substitute teachers. This is something that I have neglected to put before you, and I apologize for that. This was all along the intention with the budget to continue to raise the rates all as well for our substitute teachers. A proposal for you that's in front of you is to raise it $5 per day for substitute certified subs and regular non-certified subs. That would move the rate to $90 for a non-certified sub and $100 for a certified sub. So would like you all to consider that and ask any questions that you maybe have over that. That's a $5 pay raise per day.
We get a motion on the pay increase for substitute teachers.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Zeckman, second by Mr. Bennett. All right, any discussion?
We are, just a question on the operations side, since we've taken the substitute assignments back in-house, how's that working?
Well, we feel like it's working really well. We've had lots of positive comments. I think last year was one of our better years since I've been here in regards to having fewer unfilled jobs.
Good to hear.
But that was also because our employees were willing to step up and cover in certain places. Those additional educational assistants that we added really helped in that regard, but doing a really good job. I've signed several today that we're hiring on subs. We can always make that list grow. I said that before. But ultimately, I appreciate this board's foresight going into bringing those subs back in-house, because that allows us to be able to give these raises and not necessarily to the business expenses of that. So we feel very good about it.
Well, it's water under the bridge, but you know, that's been my concern. I think other board members' concern is the Kelly Services, the private contractor. We could not implement a pay raise without their getting a cut of it.
Right. Well, we could have, but ultimately we would have been paying more per sub because ultimately, as any business would do or any contractor would do, they would have a fee for that. So at this point, this is all going to the sub.
Yeah, and that's where it should be.
I will tell you that subs have, and I don't want to, in all transparency, I don't want to make everything sound like it's completely smooth, because the subs have said to us there's been some communication problems that were easier when we were using ESS because they had a more robust software system.
No.
But we've really worked hard to try to do that. One of the things I heard from our certified teachers at that point was when they had an absence, they had to go in 3 different areas to put a day out. And so we were able to cut that down, but unfortunately, when that happened, we were using a software system that wasn't as robust and maybe as user-friendly. So it's not been all easy, but we're still making good progress, I believe.
All right. Any other discussion over this? All right. All in favor of this pay raise, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you all. So I have given Allison Martin, who is our Director of Summer Programming, a whopping time to prepare to come share with you a couple hours, and so yeah, she holds me accountable for this, but she is going to come talk to you about our Acceleration Academy, our summer programming, and so that's the wrong button. I apologize. And so I'm going to show her slides and let her talk to you about what happened in our schools during this summer.
Okay, so we have, you can go ahead and click
Okay.
through. I just shared an example of a K-5 daily schedule. I think this was actually Wes, because there are, requirements that we have to provide to the state whenever we do our waiver. So this is a K-5 schedule. And then the next one is 6-8. This is actually the middle schools. So if you want
Yep.
more information about that, there that is. There were 8 elementary school sites and 1 middle school site, and I just listed them as all of you are very familiar with those schools, I'm sure.
And I will just add to this as she's talking, we are the only one in the Upper Cumberland that offers summer programming at all of our schools. Most of our colleagues or sister districts are doing their summer programming at one local site, one central site. And I do see the wisdom in that, but I think we're just a county that's a little different. We're spread out, and this gives us an opportunity to get more kids involved.
So these are just some program details. We started June 3rd and ended the 27th. We did have 2 makeup days, but we only ended up using 1, so that was good. All of our students that were required for the 90% attendance policy met that, and so we didn't have to use that second one. We began post-testing on the 24th, and I'm pretty sure that was done by the 26th, because from the pictures you'll see here in a few minutes, they were not testing the last day. They were enjoying themselves and having fun and getting rewards. So this is the Rising K-3 projected summer camp enrollment was 437. The number of students projected to enroll who qualified as economically disadvantaged was 131, and then that's the percentage, 29%. And this down here is number of students projected to enroll to meet the priority status as identified in the Tennessee Learning Loss Remediation and Student Acceleration Act. A lot of words. But that was for the Rising K-3, which is called a learning camp. And then for Rising 4-9 is called a bridge camp. So if you ever hear those 2 terms, that's the difference. Then I have the projected enrollment was 510. The number of students who qualified as ED that were projected to enroll was 355, and then again, the 69%, and the number of students who meet the priority status, which is also the Tennessee Learning Loss Act, was 155. So, and then here's our personnel information. We had 104 full-time teachers, 16 education assistants, 1 full-time nurse. It was actually split between 2 people. Because there was only 1 student in the district that had health needs that required a nurse on staff. And that should be other leads and translators. That didn't actually look like that when I saved it, but there was 1 translator and then 10 leads. So these are the bright spots. Last week I did actually have a little preparation. So I just emailed the schools and asked them to send me bright spots of their camp. And so there were a few other ones, but these are the ones that I slid in here this afternoon. So this was Hickory Creek. I won't read that to you. You can read it and see, but they had a lot of fun. Viola's lemonade, Betty's Concessions, Domino's Pizza, and Tops. And then they made their consolations out of Oreos. They also tie-dyed shirts, as you can see. This was Eastside. Stream, they studied circuits and the flow of electricity, and then their last day, again, they were not testing. They were playing in the water. And Morrison, this was really neat. Angie Childers, she actually sent something into the paper, and so it was on the front page. I don't know if any of you saw that or not, but she said they always do a theme, and so their theme was the Olympics, obviously, because this is an Olympic year, and then they had Paige Northcote come. But the best part of all this entire paragraph was the teachers and I feel like this was the best Acceleration Academy yet, and that's what we want here, is that they had fun and want to come back. And then Bobby Ray, they did lots of fun things. Looks like here, I can't remember if they were maybe painting rocks there. They had hot dog day. I don't know if that was hot dog day, but they were doing Rocky the Snake. That's what they were making with the rocks there. And then it said they enjoyed celebrating their last day with water activities and snow cones. So again, I won't read all that to you. And then this was Deborah. Sheila sent me pictures of them. This was not all of their pictures. They had lots of students who had perfect attendance or were recognized for perfect attendance. I just couldn't fit them all on there. Is that the last one?
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Any questions?
69% of economically disadvantaged kids, how do we stack up against other counties around us? Do you have any idea?
I do not, but I can find out for you.
Well, and that's the bridge.
Grant may
That's the
help us.
bridge camp. I mean, certainly our economically disadvantaged number is higher than most people around us. But
Just curious.
you know, that is the projected for Bridge Camp, and that's really more of a funding issue. Basically, what the state says is that you have to project your enrollment, but then a part of that projected enrollment has to be a certain percentage of economically disadvantaged. Basically saying, we want you to provide this for your economically disadvantaged students. We will not give you funding if you don't meet that percentage threshold. And so,
Is that mostly federal funding?
no, this is all state funding.
All state.
This is all state funding, it is. So, as Allison said, a part of the third grade law, for lack of a better term, requires that we have this. But I will say that the state has funded it since we began. We are very hopeful that will continue. And what Allison's not telling you is that she does a tremendous amount of work, because we provide transportation. So that means an extra 16 days of picking up and dropping off. That's an enormous amount of work with Allison coordinating with the bus shed and Durham Transportation to make sure that we have summer school drivers and pick up and drop off. And it's an enormous amount of work to get teachers to be scheduled for 16 additional days in June. So our principals and our leads at our schools do a tremendous amount of work. And what I love to see that she's provided here is that there's a lot of extra time that our students need to try to help improve their academics. But also, one thing that I would say is that our schools do a really good job of providing even fun activities. Because I think if kids had to go to 16 extra days of school, and they just hammered them and said, we're going to learn from 7 a.m. till 3 p.m., it'd be really hard to get kids to want to come. So there is no requirement except for those that are in 3rd and 4th grade that would have to do that requirement. So to have that many students participate at all of our schools is a tribute to our students and families, also to our staff for the great work that they're doing.
I know mine went a couple of years ago to it, and she had a blast. It was so much fun for her during that summer. So thank you and everybody. I know it was a whole lot of people it takes to put this.
It's a group effort for sure.
Yes, when you look at all of that, and it is. We don't realize how fortunate we are to have that program here. It is really does a lot of good work for our kids. It really does.
I think when Deborah, mom told me that their numbers were higher in 5th and above than they was in K4. You know, you're past that 4th grade threshold. You're past that 4th grade
that's
mark.
not typical.
That's just a buy-in
That's
from the
just-
parents and the students wanting to be better.
Yeah.
You know, that says a lot right there.
Absolutely.
I was shocked but blessed to hear that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Allison.
Mr. Chairman, before we go on to the next item, if I could take just a moment. We have a new person with us this evening, Caden Hurley over here. Raise your hand, Caden. Is the new reporter at the Southern Standard. Caden, is the school board going to be a regular beat, or has that been determined? Okay. Well, we just want to welcome you to the deliberations. I will say that coming into a meeting like this, unless you've got years of experience, you feel like you're at the bottom of Niagara Falls with all this stuff, especially with a lot of the professional and technical jargon kind of coming down on you in a blast. So hopefully, Dina, we could help Caden, maybe supply him some of these documents if we can do that.
Sure.
That would be a big help. I know from my own days as a reporter, it's good to get that on a piece of paper or on a computer screen so we can actually see it, just to make life a little easier. And in the interest of accuracy. Okay, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Kate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we'll move on now to talking about the personal electronic device policy. So really the procedures, it's simply an update for you, and I'm going to talk about several things and nothing really for you to vote on, but then we will move into talking about the policy and some suggested changes there. So first of all, I've heard a lot of positives around this in the community. Lots of people after the last board meeting that have said that they are in favor of this. There are some people that are not in favor of it. There are some that are concerned, rightfully so, because they don't understand where we're headed. And so I do want to talk to you a little bit about the fact that over the last 3 weeks, we've spent a lot of time meeting and talking with our schools in the various different areas. And then also, just to follow what Mr. Zeckman just did, I also have the pleasure of introducing to you a new employee that we have, Miss Sarah Cantrell, who's here with us. Sarah hit the ground running and has been in a lot of meetings. And you want to talk about not understanding some educational jargon, she's had to do a lot to deal with over the course of the last few weeks. And she's done it very well. So she's developed and designed several things that we're going to talk about in just a second. But ultimately, on the screen, you see the policy. That's not anything new to you all. But the policy is the policy. And so from our standpoint, we needed to work on some procedures of what that looked like. So I told you at the last meeting that one of the things that we reached out to other school districts to find out what they were doing, and a majority of them that we spoke to were implementing the pouch or the bag that has the cell phone in it or the electronic devices in it. So we did a lot of work to try to find out as much information as we could about that. I'm going to show you a short video, and I'm going to hope that this works and the sound works, and if it doesn't, we'll monitor it.
Their cell phones are banned. Teachers love the policy. Students, not surprisingly, hate it. So what are parents saying? Marissa Parra has the answer.
At Montgomery, Alabama's Carver High, the morning rush to school is now a morning rush to scroll.
Power your phone on!
New this year, middle and high school students now forced to lock away their phones before the bell rings.
When did they get it back?
2:45.
2:45.
Right.
Principal Gary Hall pushed for the policy and the pouch to enforce it.
They were texting, tweeting, you name it, while classes were going on.
Put it in the pouch, man.
Here's how it works. At the beginning of the day, students put their cell phones in these pouches.
Once it's locked, it is really hard to get back open.
They can keep it with them, they just can't open them. They're sealed.
There you go. Have a good day.
This unlocking magnet, the only thing designed to free them. It's not completely foolproof.
We found a lot of cell phone cases with no phone.
For students,
Show of hands, who doesn't like the pouch?
it's a painful adjustment.
I just love watching TikTok, so I gotta have my phone.
Why don't you like the pouch?
I don't like the pouches because when I'm in math, I like to take pictures of the notes and stuff.
What's your favorite part?
We communicate more with each other now that our phone is locked up.
It make me pay attention now I don't got my phone.
Who would be using their cell phone if it weren't for the pouch? That's a lot of hands. What would you be doing?
Cheating. Montgomery Public Schools isn't alone. The maker of the pouch, Yonder, says they're seeing an estimated 150% increase in schools using them in 2023. Now working with over 2,000 schools across the country. While most parents are for the pouch, others fear their children will not have their phone when they need it most.
If there's an emergency, how can I contact my child?
I mean, I'm in panic waiting until someone from the school calls and say, well, hey, there's a shooting.
It's been 1 week. Has it gone the way you thought it would?
Things are really well.
District Superintendent Dr. Melvin Brown tells us the benefits are worth the risk.
We have to find a happy medium while at the same time, our ultimate goal is to make sure everybody's 100% as safe as possible.
All right, so moving on.
Just 1 week in, this school is already seeing a difference.
I just see engagement, honestly. I see talking. They're using their words.
It's revolutionized teaching for me this year. Work gets done faster. We move along faster.
A new routine. Educators hope will unlock their full potential. Marissa Parra, NBC News, Montgomery, Alabama.
Why you should never buy colored plastic.
No, we're not worried about that.
Did you know that colored plastic
The
is
colored
legal?
plastic we're not worried about. So I thought that was a great thing. Sarah found that and sent that along and sharing that with you just to show you that other places are doing that and they're having some success with it. So we have sent an order for the pouches. We are going to utilize those cell phone pouches from grades 6 through 8. And so we've ultimately ordered those. Now, you also saw in that news article that it said there's been a 150% increase in school districts wanting to use that. And those, I think that's probably, was that last year?
That was 2020.
So that was last year. So I'm guessing that it's even worse this year. So ultimately what we were told by the company, and we've had a couple of phone calls or a couple of webinars with them already, is that we don't anticipate receiving those bags until the 1st of September. So what that put us into was having some meetings with our administrators to figure out exactly what we were going to do for the first month. And ultimately we decided that we were going to create routines in the school buildings, because what the policy says is that students do not have their electronic devices with them or on their person or in their bag at any time during the school day. So what we're going to do, and we've designed a lot of different things and a lot of informational pieces to go out, which actually started about an hour ago with Ms. Cantrell emailing to our faculty and staff some of this plan. So again, one of the things that we've tried to communicate is what's been at the heart of this for this school board, is that it's not about punishing anybody for an electronic device. It's about cutting out those distractions. And so what she has designed and what people are going to see in our social media campaign is that if you see on your screen, less distraction, more connection. And so we're going to be inundating people on social media and email with these graphics in various different ways. And really what I hope you all will hear is the less distraction, more connection. You're going to hear that. I've recorded a video today that's going to go out to our families that will be on social media, and that's what I talk about. Less distraction, more connection. I think that's a great goal for this year, regardless of whether we're talking about electronic devices or not. Talking about achievement in the classroom, cutting down those distractions and connecting more in what we do. So love this campaign. I'm excited to see that go forward. But ultimately that's going to start to go out in the morning with that video. And so that will be made available to our families, and then that will be followed up on Wednesday and Thursday with more social media, and then on Friday there will be a letter that goes out that explains a lot of these procedures that will be taking place for our school. So let's break that down real quick. 6/12, in the month of August, students will have a place to lock up their cell phone in a locking cabinet. That's going to be a little bit different in different places. I'll use the high school as an example, because ultimately they've got more people with devices than most everywhere. There will be a locking cabinet in the library. They will have the opportunity to go in before school, put that phone up, have it locked away, and then at the end of the day at 2:45 they can come back and get that device. There's nothing saying that's what they have to do. If they don't want to do that, then we would encourage them to leave that phone either in their car or at home. So ultimately that they would not have to worry about that distraction. But they'll have that opportunity. Same thing for grades 6 through 8. They'll have a locking cabinet. Those are more going to be handled through our home rooms as opposed to through the library, but some of our smaller schools will be able to handle that a little bit easier. And then we will begin getting families ready for the pouches that we hope will come within the first couple of weeks of the school. And then you saw how those work. You take your phone, and we saw a demonstration that you can actually fit 2 phones in there. So we feel very comfortable that a phone and potentially your smartwatch and even your earbuds would be able to go in that pouch. There will be magnets on the wall. They will go and magnetize their bag, close that up, and then at 8 o'clock, our administrators will take that magnet off the wall, and that will be housed in the office until the end of the day. So if a student were to check out, there would be a magnet where they have to go out so that they can unlock their bags. But that would be grades 6 through 12. Grades pre-K through 5, ultimately what we're saying is that you shouldn't bring a device with you if you have to in certain situations. You would just simply need to communicate with your school, specifically your teacher. The teacher would take that device, lock that away during the day, and give that back to them at the end of the day. We are going to have some exemptions for medical purposes. We're working through that. Ultimately, we know that there are a number of students that might be using I believe it's called Dexcom, I believe that's right. So that would be monitoring their insulin levels or what that goes all into that. There are actually some Velcro-based pouches that those students could use so that they could still get into their device for that purpose only and no other purpose, so that they're not abusing that, but it still would give them the opportunity to do that. So every time we have a conversation with a group of administrators or teachers, somebody has a question that we may not have thought of yet. So this is continuing to grow. But I do feel like that we have a great plan moving forward. Now, if you watch the video that goes out tomorrow, you will hear me say, we're not going to be perfect with it because we're undertaking something district-wide that we've not necessarily done. And so we're going to have some things that pop up that we weren't prepared for. You heard the concerns from the parents on that news, the story on the news. And ultimately what we're saying to parents is that we are preparing school-wide to make sure that we can take messages and get those delivered to students. And ultimately our pre-K 5s, pre-K 8s, they're pretty good at that. Our 9, 12, it's a little bit more difficult. They're not used to having to deliver messages. But I met with the administrative team at the high school, and they've already really working hard on making sure that they have procedures in place. They're actually changing their time of doing their school-wide announcements so that they can make sure they have those at the end of the day and make sure that kids are informed. Ultimately, one of the things that we need our community and our parents, our teachers, our coaches, our program sponsors to all understand, if we're going to be about less distraction and more connection, we can't, as a parent, I can't take my phone out at 9 in the morning and send my kid a text just so that I can get it off my mind. I've got to wait till the end of the day, and I can send that text at the end of the day so as to achieve the goal. Ultimately, we want to let our kids focus on what they need to do during the day. So lots of things that are going into that, and Sarah's put together a lot of information. I could give you, I'm not going to spoil it, but we have letters and we have several more social media posts and lots of information going out about the Yonder bags. So ultimately, the procedures, I just wanted to update you and then ask for your feedback and any other questions that you might have, and then I'll move into the update of the policy.
So you're starting with 6 through 8, the pouches at the beginning?
We'll be all 612 when they come in.
Okay.
It'll be all 612. We have to wait until they come in, and we hope that that'll be.
Well, I think it's like we've talked before. I think with this will increase. Our goal is to be less distracted and more learning going on in the classroom.
Right.
And through the input that we would know from the teachers that does not want them in the classroom. I think this is a good move on our part as a board, so it increase our test scores and everything else.
I think it's going to improve, like you said, the teachers, the students, everything's going to, this is going to make every part of this experience better. I don't know if y'all saw the links that I sent out. There's going to be a webinar. I think some of us are going to be on tomorrow from this phone free school movement, and they sent out toolkits, and I think Sarah's got that, a whole lot of information on this, and I'm sure you probably used a lot of that, and it was, I think it's a great, part of to help implement this. And
one of the things that could derail it quickly is when people don't understand.
Right.
And so that's what we're trying to do over the next 2 weeks, is give as much information to our parents and our kids, because again, I still have my own children at home that continue to ask me, why are we doing this? And so they have to understand the goal. And again, it's not that we're trying to be punitive. And I've said this numerous times. This was a direct reflection of your leadership, because you all brought this up and have carried this, and I'm thankful for it. Not only as a school leader, but as a parent, because ultimately you all are putting their needs first. There's so much information, and again, we'll be sharing that about the fact that the APA talks about the fact that we're seeing less self-esteem issues and connection issues and lots of different things. We're seeing academic achievement go up because they're more focused in their time at school. Now, it's going to be hard. I'm gonna tell you, the month of August is gonna be hard. Kids, adults, everybody are gonna have a hard time removing themselves from those devices. And so, it's not gonna be easy. I fully anticipate our discipline rates are gonna go up in August from where they normally are. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that we shy away from it. We work hard, we put some expectations in place, and we rise to those expectations. That's what we do every day, and so we're not going to shy away from that. So we'll have some parents that will have concerns, and we'll work through those just like we normally do.
You know, Sharon, what Chairman Coates sent us, you know, prior to us adopting this policy, you know, we seen where test scores went up, and, you know, and discipline went down. You know, once the policy was implemented with a phones-free device. You know, on Bobby's strategic plan, it's got recruitment, retainment of teachers. We're losing a lot of teachers just because of discipline. Teachers can get burned out real quick, and so if this can help that.
Well, I think if everybody understands the expectation, and we'll strive to it, just as you heard on that story, we'll have a lot of pouches that have empty phone cases in them. Because kids are going to be kids. Mr. Bennett knows that. He's been a principal. They're going to be kids, and they're going to try us, and we're going to work hard, and we're going to try to figure it out, and we'll get there. One of the things that's on that webinar, there's I believe someone's going to share. I mean, you know, we're being pioneers in this, pun intended, but there's a lot of people that are moving this direction, so we're in good company.
I think one of the speakers tomorrow is from Houston, of a school district's got 37,000 students that they're starting this implementation. I think that's who's going to be speaking tomorrow at it.
So tomorrow we will begin. As I said, Sarah sent out an email to our faculty and staff with the policy and some of the promotional materials that we're going to be using. That went out about 4 o'clock. And then tomorrow on social media we'll begin that, and then we'll be following up all along the way. And then in August we'll begin preparing students and our parents for how to use the pouch, how to use it appropriately. I do want to make sure that they understand that lots of places are requiring students to purchase those pouches themselves. We are providing those for them. They are going to be district owned, so they will have to take care of them. If they don't take care of them, then they will be responsible for them. So they're going to have to work to make sure that they're responsible with that. And I love that too. It's creating responsibility among our students and giving them I guess it's really kind of something that's a privilege for them to be able to carry, because they could just leave them at home. I mean, ultimately they could leave them at home. But we're also giving them the privilege of having this bag to where they can carry it around and it be on their person as well.
Do we have an estimated cost on those?
I believe it was right at $100,000, I believe, to get the pouches. But as I told you, we are fortunate that we're going to be able to be reimbursed from our federal money with that, and so it's right at that. I can give you
No, that's fine. I just given.
I believe it's a little bit over, maybe 102 or something to that effect.
This is the Yonder company, right?
That's correct.
And that will be reimbursed through federal.
Yeah, through our ESSER.
Okay.
That's correct.
But this is the Yonder company that pioneered this process.
Yes, sir. I'm using that word a lot tonight. Any questions about the procedures? Well, as always, if you have questions or thoughts, please pass those along, because we're working through those as well. So to update the policy, when we shared the policy, we had some principals that got together and had some input on the offenses. And so I shared that with you. That should be in your packet. It was in the addendum, I think, that went out on Thursday. And so you have currently in the policy the first offense, the teacher takes the device and it's documented, the parent is notified, and then the offense, then there's a warning given that the student would serve punishment for the next offense. The second offense would be the same, except that a student would be assigned to either 1 day of after-school detention or 2 days lunch detention. The third offense would be the same, except the student would serve 1 day of ISS And the fourth offense plus would be the same, but the student serves 3 days ISS. One of the, again, this is coming from multiple principals that talked about that. They wanted to move that offense up a little bit, maybe, I don't know that severe is the term to use, but gets a little bit quicker in the policy. So I won't read all of that to you, but ultimately it's moving. There is still a warning in the first offense. There's still 2 days after-school detention, but they are saying 1 week of lunch detention in the second offense. The third offense goes to 2 days of ISS, and the fourth offense ultimately comes to the place of feeling like that they are not, if we get to 4 offenses, our school leadership is really wanting to be able to punish without ISS and potentially use out-of-school suspension and or maybe potentially refer them to the alternative school because of the fact that they're obviously not paying attention to the policy. So there are those suggestions there. I would be in support of these. I don't think necessarily anybody, you know, when we were writing the policy, we were just basically taking what was there, and then the school leadership was making some suggestions there. So again, I would ultimately make that suggestion for you to consider, and recommendation instead of suggestion, that you consider these alternate offense policies. And so if you do consider that, you would have to alter that policy or vote to alter that policy tonight. Gotta get it.
About the K-8, K-5, K-8.
I have that. It's in there, right?
Yes, that's correct. Okay.
All right, can I get a motion on the suggestion of altering the policy, or electronic device policy offenses?
This, okay, do you have you got this outlined, what you're talking about is advancing the,
Yes, you should have
It's
a
in
copy
our,
of it.
it's in
It
here
should
on
be in
page
your packet.
33 on our.
oh, okay.
So with this motion, is this motion saying we will alter this,
So you're amending the policy.
Amending.
but not to the suggested items, just to items that we agree
Well,
on?
you have you have suggestions in front of you to amend the policy.
What the
Now,
policy
you
says
do not
that-
have to do that. I mean,
Right.
it's up
What-
to you as a board.
What the policy says is this top one, and then what has been suggested by the school administrators is this one, which is a little more stricter once you get into that
Yeah.
second, third, fourth offense.
And I mean, we can even do it to where there is a procedure for that that can be amended without board approval. I just know y'all wanted to make sure it had teeth and that everybody understood that. I think that's why
So
you
what-
wanted to go ahead and do it as a board policy rather than a procedure.
So what you could do is pull the offenses out of policy and make it a procedure, is what she's saying. But I believe when you all talked about this policy, you wanted something specific in there.
You didn't want it where the principals didn't have to take the heat
Right,
for it. It
yeah.
was, the board decided this, so.
So all
That
the-
would make your choice a little different depending
Hey.
on what you wanna do.
With this, on the suggested part, I don't have a problem with like the second, third, and fourth offense. I guess the thing I've been thinking about this is that when they get for the very first time, and they take it up, and then a parent comes and gets it, it's a warning.
Correct.
Well, to me, we already set a warning by putting the policy into effect. So you're actually saying, okay, we're giving 6,000 students, bring your cell phone one time and there's nothing happens.
Well, they do take it out, but yeah,
Well,
and the
but-
parent has to come get it, but yes.
Let's get a motion on the floor, and
Yeah.
so I'll make a motion that we, I really don't know how to word this, update our policy for personal devices.
Okay, we got a motion on.
Well,
Clear
you,
enough?
you want to update it with the school leadership suggestion for the
Well, I don't know
offenses?
yet. I don't know
Well, we
yet.
can get a motion in a second, then we can talk about it.
I don't, that's where,
Or
okay,
discuss
Yeah, we have a
updating.
discussion about it, so do you wanna do it?
so, do you have a motion for me yet? I make the motion that we update the policy on personal devices based upon the
Suggested.
suggested conversation
All right,
table.
we've got a motion by Ms. Bess. Gotta get a second.
Clear as mud.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll second.
And we got a second by Mr. Zeckman. All right, now any discussion? All right, here's what I like about this, is that our administrators, our principals are working with us.
Yes.
They're saying, we are happy that y'all have done this. We still want to be a part of that, and here's our suggestion.
I commend them for it.
Y'all have done due diligence, but we want to even take it one step farther and make this easier for us as administrators. They're the ones that are going to take the heat on this.
Don't have to deal with it.
So if those suggestions, if all the principals got together and said, hey, this is what we would like to see in it, I think that's fair. Now, that's ultimately, we're not changing the policy, we're just changing the discipline, the guidelines on the discipline, if we accept this. I think what we've got already is good, but if they want to take that another step and work with us on that, I think it's a good idea. And
So for clarity, Tanya's motion sounds kind of like a caption. That we're going to basically change the discipline provision in the existing policy that we've adopted, to say that, this will become basically a procedural matter that.
No.
That's not,
it will take,
that's
No.
not her motion.
Okay.
If we in conversation choose to make any changes to the first, second, third, fourth offense, then we can do so with this motion. So if we say the first offense, we choose to take our first offense
Okay.
and then apply, say, 2, 3, and 4 of their
Substitute the
suggested offenses,
recommended.
we could do that.
So we're gonna substitute the leadership recommended, I'm on board with that.
this
Based on
motion is,
what?
we're gonna replace this top 3 offenses
Yeah.
with the bottom 4, I meant. What we had already in policy, the first, second, and third offense fourth offense that we've already, that's in our policy now, we wanna replace that with these bottom 4.
Okay.
That's what this motion, we can't do any other changes in that according to this motion.
Well, I agree with Mr. Bennett, it is a warning already, but I also think, it's the first offense, there needs to be a warning.
I think they'll lose their phone, so,
Yes.
that to a kid is partial. To Mr. Bennett's point, it does give them a warning. I mean, there's no punishment served other than losing that phone. But, one of the things that I've heard from other places is to say that the warning possibly is saying, listen to the kids, listen, we're not trying to be punitive, we're just trying to cut this out. So if you take that first offense to a punishment right away, then you are saying potentially that you're gonna get in trouble. So that's just another side to that. Now again, that's just for you all to decide. Now, this is what, when the principals got together and looked at this is the suggestions that these are the suggestions that they made, and so ultimately, I'm bringing them to you if you wanna alter your policy to say those. Now, you can leave it the same.
We can leave it at what we had, which still the first offense is still the warning. That first offense really doesn't change anything. It's when you get into the second, third, and fourth on the suggested is a little bit stricter, a little more, teeth to those policies than it. The first offense pretty much stays the same.
Well, those administrators are in the trenches every day, and if they want the policy to be stricter, I commend them for that. And I think we can't not take their suggestions.
I'm totally in agreement.
If we wanted to change the whole thing, we would have to amend that again. If we wanted to take that warning out, that would have to be a whole different amendment to the policy. But as far as what?
I'm looking at it from a different point, from a previous administrator.
Yes.
Because I know how hard.
You have that
it was
insight
when I was
that
executive principal at Warren County High School to oversee 1,800 kids with cell phones. And that's the only reason I said.
Well, what would be your suggestion?
My suggestion would be, I think that there should be something in there in that first offense. It may be a day of after-school detention, or it may be one day of lunch detention, rather than just saying, kids are smart. They said, I can take my cell phone to school today, and if I get caught, I'm gonna get it back, and my parents gonna come get it, then there's nothing, there's no punishment to it. And don't get me wrong, I'm for the administrators and I respect them, cause I like 2, 3, and 4. There's no question about that.
Well, like I said, on this motion, it would just be to adopt this suggestion. Now, we can vote on that, and if it fails, then we can go to amend, to add another motion to change the policy to the fence, and that will be fine too. But on this motion, it is just to amend, to the suggested
So
policy by the administrator.
In this motion, we can't take bullet 3 on the first offense, which is our policy, and move it down to the suggested. We can do that?
You can do whatever
You
you
can
want.
do whatever you want to as a board.
Do you all see that? Bullet number 3 in the first offense?
My page numbers.
The warning student,
Warning, student will serve detention for the next offense. So bullet 3 goes down into the suggested first offense?
I mean,
Well,
again,
that's not gonna change
the
anything.
warning given is just not the same language.
yeah, it's still
It's
the
just
same.
the same thing.
First offense is still the same
Yes,
as
it-
on
But-
both of them.
But you are
The
welcome
next-
to add that language if that's what you wanna do.
Well, if you communicate when
They already know the second
Okay.
offense is
Yeah,
gonna be
because when
the,
you- in this first one, when you got warning on the one up here, on that third bullet point, it says warning student will serve detention for the next offense. Well, you go down here on the suggestion on the second offense, look at bullet point number 2. They're assigned either 2 hours of ASD or 4 hours of lunch detention.
But as a child, when you give your kid a warning and you don't tell them what the next offense is?
well, it's here in black. and
Should
white,
be
So
there.
there, it's there. That,
Okay.
I think that's, yeah, I think that's,
The big thing right here that caught my eye on the first offense on both of them, the bullet point, the offense is documented. Not everybody plays sports or if they're involved in extracurricular activity, but once something gets documented, that means that other coach or that sponsor can pick it up. You know, you get in trouble in classroom, you're gonna suffer the consequences when you get to your extracurricular activities if the coach wants to implement that. Doesn't have to, that's all up to your sponsors and your coaches, but when that gets documented, it's there in black and white. I like the suggestion myself.
Any other suggestions?
well, we could, I mean, if the motion is, we could take that first offense completely out, if that would be the will of the board.
If we adopt Tanya's motion, then we can still come back and make that amendment.
I like
If-
taking out the first offense.
If that is, if that's something that the board could approve, are we gonna get another motion on that? We can just eliminate the first offense and then go straight to the second offense of the devices collected, and the student's gonna serve the 2 hours of after-school detention or 4 hours of lunch detention, and the parents notified and gotta pick it up.
So if we adopt the motion that's on the table right now,
All 4 suggested.
yeah, then we
Or-
can come back immediately and amend step 1.
On a different motion.
So, again, I completely understand what you all are saying. I would tend to say we didn't necessarily discuss that with school leadership about going to straight to offense 2. That's gonna make their job even more difficult, I think, because ultimately they're gonna be going straight to having to assign 2 days of after-school detention but again, it may deter it. That's what punishments are for, are to deter. But ultimately, if you adopt that tonight, then we would need to go back to school leadership and say, okay, this is what was adopted based on your suggestions. But again, that's your purview.
I'm gonna go on the side that this is what our administrators have come up with. And they're gonna be the ones implementing this, they're gonna be the ones, like Tony said, in the trenches every day. I would, suggest that we go with their suggestion and leave that warning in there and, understand that it's not, I understand the harshness that we need to take serious, but they're the ones that's gonna be implementing this plan. They're gonna be the ones dealing with it every day.
And they may come back and say,
Take it out.
please take it out.
And we can always
that will be
amend it at any
fine.
point in time.
Maybe in August and everything.
And this is gonna be tough, but after this initial strife with these children, it may not be, this policy may not be used as much as we think it's
I
gonna be.
think after a few
Once they get acclimated to not having.
We know we're gonna have withdrawal symptoms. We know that.
Absolutely.
And it could be pretty acute,
And this
both
first
students and
year-
parents.
And this first year will
Yeah.
be tough.
Yeah, but I think Tanya's right, that as the policy becomes, shall we say, part of the fabric of schools in Warren County, this may not be such a big issue.
First month's gonna be tough just until we get the pouches.
Yeah.
You're gonna be issuing you some warnings if we go with this first offense, there's gonna be some warnings on that.
All right, I'm thinking about the pouches, since we don't have them on the 10 through 12 level. Then I'm going to say then, I would go with the suggestive part, as Chris had talked about there, due to the fact that the pouches are not here.
You can always come back and amend it.
Yeah.
I always come back and amend it after they get the pouches.
After the first month, the administrators may come back to us and say, hey, can you give us a little more help and tighten this
They're
up on
gonna
us?
have a different suggestion.
Right, so,
The biggest thing is gonna be how consistent they
Right.
are administrating the discipline.
this shows me that they're serious about it. When they got together and said, hey, we're gonna make this suggestion, like, I think that proves to us that they're serious about this too, and they're really behind.
Well, and they've gotten together and thought about it,
Yeah.
because, you know, it's like I said, every conversation we have about it, we get to the place to where we think of something that we hadn't thought about before.
Yeah, no, this is on it.
So they overrode our suggestions and come in with something with a little more teeth to it, so it's obviously, like it's all been said, they've got their head wrapped around this pretty tight.
And just to clarify, we won't have any pouches until September
Right.
regardless.
Regardless.
And then once we get those 6/12, we'll have those.
Would you like a repeat of the motion?
It took me a while to understand.
Dana's
but
got
I think I got it.
Dana's got the motion.
Yes, yes.
Is
Just
there
so
any more
everybody
discussion,
knows.
cause I wanna make sure everybody knows what we've got going on here before we do take a vote on it. And
Yeah,
Anybody else
because
has
Dina
any?
has to write this down. We'll make sure she's got a good grasp of it.
You want me to read it?
Sure, yes, please.
I've got motion by Ms. Best, seconded by Mr. Zeckman to update the policy on personal electronic devices based on the suggestion of administrators.
All right. So, we got a motion and we got a second. Is any more discussion before we take a vote? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman, I think we pointed this out before, but let's mention it again. This policy says the school system, the individual schools, school personnel take no responsibility for loss or damage or misuse of a phone while it's in our custody.
Yes.
Just wanna make sure.
That was already
everybody
in there
understands.
beforehand, but yes.
Yep.
And I will update you, the price on the pouches initially, 104,000.
Okay.
104,000. I knew I was close.
All right.
Okay, thank you all, for that good discussion. Appreciate again much, your thoughtful leadership on this issue. Last thing I have in operations, I was asked a couple of months ago by the city of McMinnville if we would discuss, the tennis courts at the Milner Recreation Center, better known as the Civic Center around here. But they were able to update their tennis courts a couple of years ago, 2 of them, and they would like to update 2 more of them. And so the city of McMinnville approached me about that because our teams spend a considerable amount of time practicing and playing on their tennis courts. And so the city of McMinnville submitted a proposal for us potentially to cost share with them in this update. And you can see in that proposal that they were not able to update courts 1 and 2. They would like to do that. They have received bids for renovating those 2 tennis courts. The projected cost of that would be $150,000, about $75,000 per court. And so ultimately you can see what City Administrator Nolan Ming has said. If you all as a school system or as a school board would consider helping with that project, what I would just add to them is just to say is that the city of McMinnville has been a great partner with us, and we do use those courts considerably with our teams. Now, I would also like to say that I would love to see us build tennis courts on our own property, potentially at Warren County High School, so that we didn't have to use that. But that does not take away the fact that our teams at the middle school and the high school are using that in that proposal. Or again, if I was making a recommendation to you, I would say that we would potentially half that cost with the city, potentially pay for one of those court renovations. But ultimately, that's up to you all as a board. We do have that money that could be budgeted to help with that project, but you all would need to be comfortable with that. So I'll submit that to you all for your consideration.
Gonna get a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Bennett. And a second by Mr. Colwell.
Just to be clear, that motion to be with my recommendation of
$75,000.
Correct.
Yeah. Any discussion on this? I think Dr. Swallows has laid this out about as good as he could, as much as we do use their facilities, and they're gracious enough to let us use those in both high school and middle school. I feel like it is our obligation to help fund some of this until we can do our own.
Yeah, the city of McMinnville has also just been really good, especially the Milner Center has been really good to work with us when we have our evacuation drills, and I mean they bend over backwards to help us, and we have a good relationship with them as well as the county, and we want to be good partners with them. This is a large expense, but again, if our kids weren't using it, I wouldn't even brought it to you.
Right.
But our kids are using it, and we'll get benefit out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, any other discussion on this? Anybody have any questions? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
That's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
All right, moving on to curriculum achievement. So we have a list of policies up for approval and adoption on first and only reading. And the first section of this in your packet is all changes that have been required by the new law. And we all were there this past weekend and got to listen to all this exciting information that we heard all weekend over these new laws. I'm assuming we could probably package these together in one vote.
You can if you want to do that.
Unless
That's
there's any other-
however y'all want to do it.
Okay, we can do these in two separate ones if y'all would like, have the new state laws.
I will say almost all of them are state laws. I can explain that to you if you want me to real quick, or you can do them however you want to. If y'all have questions for me. We did an internal revision on special ed because we had some special ed information in some other policies, and it wasn't all in one policy. I mean, obviously they overlap, but we wanted to put that language in one spot instead of as an extra paragraph in several different areas. So that was to change that, and we updated some terms that were just need updating due to time.
Yeah.
Also, the Title IX policy, the only revision is to make Mike Mansfield the deputy Title IX coordinator. The same is true in bullying and harassment, that he would be that contact, because we do have to have the contact listed there, and I'm still the Title IX coordinator, but he would be deputy. Those are really the only changes there, and then everything else was required by law.
I will say, Mr. Chairman, policy 4.214 is on artificial intelligence. That is now a state law that we adopt a policy regarding that. TSBA has provided us a model policy, and that's what you have. I was contacted by one of our teachers, Ms. Marsha Riggs, who has been doing a lot of training actually on artificial intelligence, and she wanted to see what that policy was. I shared that with her about an hour before this meeting. She sent back some suggestions with that, but ultimately I think what's best in this situation would be to adopt the model policy, give us the opportunity to sit down with Ms. Riggs and talk about our model policy, and then potentially if there's anything that needed to be added. In her email, it basically talked about giving the students some more direction on how to use AI responsibly.
That's in this policy.
It is, but I think she wants to kind of label, her suggestion was to kind of label that out. I would like to meet with her and talk about that before we do that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that you understood, we might come back with some more suggestions, but I do believe the model policy is good.
And if anybody is looking at these or seeing these on, anything that's in red is something that's been revised or a new policy. So
Yes,
anything
yes.
that you're looking at the policy that's in red, it's been a revision or it's
Or
a
the
brand new
strike,
policy.
the red is additional language, the strike
That's-
phrase or the.
Right, to
template, yeah.
get to where we need to be to, in compliance with the new state laws, so. If we get a motion, I'd be in favor of pulling those together and making one motion over. If somebody would like to make a motion on this.
Make a motion.
Got a motion by Mr. Judkins to, approve all policies for approval and adoption. Got a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Bess. All right, we got any, discussion over these? I think Robin's laid it out pretty well for us, and what we've listened to over the weekend at our summer law camp, kind of, they went over all these, and so, if nothing else, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, too, we did have a little glitch in the policies that we did for last time. We said that we would do them on second reading, I believe.
Okay.
And we did not, because a lot of times we do one and only reading, but because we had time, we did it. So we do need to waive second reading on the policies, and we can list them or not. And then if, strictly because I would push it till August and do it then, but some of these policies we really
We
need to
need to
have
be
in
in effect
place
from before.
before
Yeah.
school starts, and we can, I'd be happy
And I can read 'em
to,
off if
push
anybody needs
those
it, or-
back and look at them again after that, but again, these aren't really discretionary changes, they are required changes. All of those were required by law, the laws that they went over at TSBA, summer law.
Okay.
So if we could, I guess we
Do you
can.
have those to read?
I do. Do you want me to read those off? The ones that you're waiving second reading on?
Yes.
Okay. It would be 2.403 surplus property sales, 3.205 security, 3.400 student transportation management, 4.201 class size ratios, 4.213 family life curriculum, 4.301 interscholastic athletics, 4.600 grading systems, 5.307 physical assault leave, 5.404 employee access to electronic media, 5.701 substitute teachers, 5.802 qualifications and duties of the director of schools, 6.319 alternative education, 5.6121 employee acceptable use and internet safety agreement, and 6.4031 pediculosis.
Okay.
Head lice.
And
So
they
what-
considered those at the last meeting.
Yes,
We have already read
You've
those,
already
and
passed
we-
those on
passed
first
them.
reading.
We would, what we're gonna do now is just to waive the second reading and accept these as, or do we even have to make a motion on that?
We
I mean,
did
you don't
not.
have to
Sorry,
waive the
did
second
that.
reading, you're considering it on second reading,
Okay.
right?
So this
Is that
was,
right? Am I wrong?
Sure.
okay.
Yeah.
If anybody has any questions, I can answer questions on those. And I do wanna say that's my bad, I apologize, I did not,
But no,
I
feel like
didn't look at it today to see that they weren't in there, so.
We have already adopted these policies.
On first
On
reading.
first reading.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we just wanna,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt on second reading the policies just mentioned by Second Administrative Assistant Jones.
Okay.
all right, we've got a motion, can we get a second?
Second.
Got a second by Mr. Bennett. Any discussion over this? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
And we will make an internal procedure to make sure that, look at that, I'm sorry. It's been a little crazy.
Been a little crazy, that's
This
right.
last couple of weeks.
All right, any other business before we dismiss? All right, can I get,
Mr., I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Swallows mentioned, one of our new associates here, Sarah Cantrell. I think that is an excellent move. This is a role that needs to be filled. We need to be doing this. I think during the discussion of the cell phone pouches, we described what we're doing, but I think Dr. Swallows said we need to explain why we're doing it, and that will be a big part of what Ms. Cantrell's doing. The school parents, the taxpayers, everybody that has a stake in the schools should have access to that information. It should be transparent. It should be easily accessible. We need to explain what we're doing. And I think we've tried to do that over the years, but with Ms. Cantrell here, I think we're gonna do a much better job. She's a very capable person, comes from a great newspapering family, so she knows how to do it. And she will be, I think she'll be stellar in communicating. We're not calling this public relations, some people call that. That's sort of a pejorative term to some people, and I understand why. But we're trying to interpret for general public what we're doing, and very importantly, why we're doing it.
Absolutely.
So, compliments to Dr. Swallows on making this personnel acquisition. Great deal of talent and ability there.
I agree. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Got a motion by Mr. Judkins. Second. Second by Mr. Fuller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Meeting is adjourned.
We're out.